Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Halloween is nearly upon us, and that means only one thing. That's right, it's time for another Alpha and Omega sequel! I honestly do not understand it. We started out with a mediocre and predictable love story, and that somehow led to a kinda sorta Christmas tie-in, a cliched sports movie, and now a Halloween special, each succeeding movie more uncreative than the last. How does a movie that was so uninspired continue to spawn more movies that are even less inspired? And in case anyone is wondering why I'm dressed up like the Green Lantern for this review, it's because I need to muster up all the willpower that I can to make sure that I don't kill myself by the time this movie's over. So, let's take a look at Alpha and Omega, The Legend of the Sawtooth Cave, and just get this over with. Right off the bat, this movie wastes no time to piss me off. The first part is kind of nitpicky, I'll admit, but why did they have to call it The Legend of the Sawtooth Cave? That second "the" in there just sounds kind of clunky, doesn't it? Secondly, Kate and Humphrey, the Alpha and Omega that the title speaks of, are nowhere on this cover. Because it's not like we would actually want to follow the continuing story of the characters that we were introduced to in the first place, right? And third, why did they have to call it The Legend of the Sawtooth Cave? If they couldn't be bothered to research any of the names of the actual cave systems in Jasper National Park, where this movie is taking place, okay, fine, whatever. But why did they have to name the cave Sawtooth? Sawtooth is the name of the national park in Idaho where Kate and Humphrey were taken to in the first movie. We're going to see that a lot of this movie is set in a place called Shadow Forest, so why not just call it The Legend of Shadow Forest? At this rate, they might as well have just called the movie Alpha and Omega. Yeah, we're lazy, f*** you. After a little prologue that's desperately trying to set a dark and spooky mood for this movie, we open on a bright and cheery day in an open field full of cute little wolf pups, immediately destroying any sense of dread that we'd want to achieve in this Halloween movie. Because it's not like we actually want to scare the audience while we're telling a ghost story, do we? And again, I have to ask, why are none of these wolf pups subject to the passage of time? Why do they still look as young as they did 2 movies ago? It especially makes no sense since Stinky, Claudette, and these other alpha pups are all in alpha school, and the first movie established that you don't go into alpha school until you're an adolescent. Speaking of these other wolf pups, can you notice anyone missing from this group? Well, okay, it is impossible to tell these wolves apart since their only distinguishing features are slight differences in color, but do you know who is never even mentioned in this movie? Fleet. You all remember Fleet, don't you? Claudette's love interest from the last movie? He's gone. And those other critters who went on to become inspirations for non-alphas everywhere, the poster animals for how you can do anything if you believe in yourself, they're gone too. What was the point of introducing all these new characters and plot threads if you aren't even going to try to follow up on them? Anyway, it seems like Runt wants to hang out with the alphas to learn how to hunt, but his mom shows up to tell him to get back to Omega School.
Runt, buddy, listen to your mother.
Why should I, Dad? You never do.
Oh, is that so?
If you see some holly, bring that back too.
'Tis the season.
And if you see the pups, send them home.
Okay, love you, babe.
And can you guess how many times we've seen Humphrey not listen to Kate?
0.
I'm just saying that if you're going to mouth off to your parents, the least you can do is actually make sure that you know what you're talking about. It also seems that Lily has returned for this movie, but apparently her eyelashes couldn't be bothered to come with her, and she says that she's taking the Omega Pups on a field trip to Shadow Forest.
Isn't that haunted? I was there yesterday. It's fine. It's teeming with life. Code for food.
Would Garth like this, Lily?
My husband is on an extended hunting trip. He trusts my judgment.
Thanks for reminding us that Lily and Garth are married, movie. Usually you're encouraging us to not pay attention to what's been going on. And why wouldn't Garth's father know where his own son is? Wouldn't one of the leaders of the pack have to know where the other alphas are at all times? After Humphrey reassures Kate that it'll be perfectly safe to take their son into an allegedly haunted forest because he's going with them, which may be the single funniest thing he's ever said, Winston lets them go on their little field trip.
The Alphas will be kings of the fields, and the Omegas will be kings of the forest.
If Wolf's social hierarchy is just that flexible, then why was there any kind of conflict over Kate and Humphrey being together in the first movie? So they go into Shadow Forest, and as much as I love Lily, I have to question why they thought that she should be the one to bring us here. Lily was supposed to be shy and timid, and sure, her being with Garth helped bring her out of her shell, but what would make her decide to explore a haunted forest? Why did her first visit to the forest happen completely off-screen? Wouldn't seeing her conquer her fears like that be at least a little bit interesting to actually see? What exactly is she supposed to be teaching Runt about being an Omega by bringing him here of all places? If the plot demands that Runt has to visit a haunted forest, why couldn't Runt just come here by himself after hearing some campers talking about Shadow Forest or something? Why did it need to be Lily?
That's odd. Nothing in the clouds indicated a windstorm today.
What, now she's a meteorologist too? You're supposed to be a clown! How do you know anything about weather patterns? Look, Lily, I know that I was disappointed by you not being in the third movie, but get out of here while you still can before they ruin you even more. And because the wind is picking up, Runt decides the best thing to do is to climb a tree to take a look.
I'm going up to take a look!
My son, the tree hugger.
You'll have to forgive me for going off on a little tangent here, but do you know what I love about the Lego Movie? Just the fact that they're able to get away with a lot of stuff that's ridiculous and nonsensical, simply because the entire world is made of Legos. Like, how could they build a fully functioning motorcycle out of just stuff that they'd find in an alleyway? Because they're Legos. How can they create birds out of nothing? Because they're Legos. How can the same materials that would go into the construction of a submarine simultaneously become soft and comfortable when making a double-decker couch? Because they're Legos. And check this out. This Lego set actually comes with a little dog character, and just like Runt from this movie, it too is able to climb trees. I'm gonna see if I can apply that kind of logic to the rest of these movies. Why is Runt climbing a tree to take a look at the wind when doing so is a remarkably stupid idea? Because Legos! Why did the wolves decide that getting lost was a better idea than staying with the rest of their pack and immediately going home? Because Legos! Why did they turn Lily into a military strategist with a minor in meteorology? Because they're unfathomably stupid. And speaking of unfathomably stupid, Runt reaches the top of the tree when a ghost wolf materializes and Runt falls to the ground on his back. By the way, every time this ghost shows up in this movie, it first makes itself known by blowing around a bunch of leaves. Nice try, movie, but I don't see how we're supposed to be scared by the colors of the wind. Of course, Runt is perfectly fine after falling like that, since while this movie remembers that death is still a thing, it's not like you'd suffer any kind of injury after falling a few dozen feet, right?
Something got your fur in a bunch?
Little bro, you're as pale as a coyote.
How can you tell? He looks perfectly fine! Even if we ignore the standard things they could animate to show Runt being afraid, putting his tail between his legs, making his knees shake, etc., could they really not make his face more pale to validate the observation of how pale he looks? Changing colors is what these animators do when making every new character that we see, so why couldn't they just do that for Runt? Tony then tells a story about what happened when he and two other alphas were in Shadow Forest while they were on their first hunt.
Tony, it looks like it went into that cave. That dark and creepy cave.
Okay, Lyle and Link, you twins go check it out. Think about it. You'll come back with your biggest prey yet. Come on, let's do this thing.
Yeah, just take your old man voice and raise the pitch up a little bit. That really sounds like a little kid, doesn't it? Actually, is Tony supposed to be a little kid here? Alpha School is apparently made up of pups who are all within the same age range, so is he supposed to be as young as these other pups and the animators just screwed up again? Or is the implication that he was held back for a couple of years? Anyway, they explore Sawtooth Cave, and that ghost wolf shows up again and chases them away.
It's gonna get us!
Okay, I think it's getting late.
Yeah, I agree. Pups, thank Grandma for dinner.
Thanks for dinner, Grandma.
Oh, and thank Uncle Tony for the bedtime horror story.
Uncle Tony? Is Garth's father also his brother? And by the way, this is the last we're ever going to see of Lily. Thanks for completely screwing up her character and only making her a means to an end movie. Unmoved by Tony's tale of trauma, Runt takes his siblings back to Shadow Forest, where they bicker with a couple of porcupines before they get to Sawtooth Cave.
I'm Runt, the future king of the forest.
Says who?
Says Winston, the leader of the wolves. And I do believe we can come and go as we wish.
And I do believe you can't.
Hey, we're not here to cause problems. Come on.
Movie, can you just do us a favor and at least pretend that you're not being lazy here? I mean, this is our third time venturing into this forest, which is teeming with life, and so far all we've seen are a couple of porcupines and a squirrel. You really can't give us just a little bit more effort than this? Really? It's not long before that ghost starts chasing them around, and they get separated.
Stinky, Claudette, anything? Stinky!
Bro, where are you?
If only we had incredibly sensitive ears and noses that we could use to track him down. Oh, why couldn't we be born wolves or something? Runt climbs a tree to look for him, when he sees another wolf in Sawtooth Cave who points to Stinky, who is about to fall off a cliff. Of course, they save him after an incredibly death-defying rescue, and when they get home, their mother is not happy.
Can't you stick to chasing butterflies in the valley? Huh? Or playing in front of the cave? Playing what? Well, you could play howl. Oh, you mean like howling every 15 minutes so you can locate us?
What's next? A leash?
Okay, guys, look, your mother is just trying to make sure that you don't, get yourself into a situation.
Yeah, a situation that could be bad. Leads to bad things.
Didn't you two get into a lot of situations?
Yes. Yes, they did. One bad situation just happened and was completely out of their control, and every other bad situation they've gotten into since was a result of you getting into trouble, you little dumbasses. I'm sorry, but this just really pisses me off. Kate is supposed to be this incredible alpha. She's a strong, amazingly talented hunter, and she has the strength of character to do whatever it takes for her family. Why is she so terrified of her children disliking her that she can't do what needs to be done and just ground their little asses? You're their mother, Kate! Start acting like it! Also, why do these movies insist on making the pups mouth off to their parents at every opportunity? None of these pups have ever shown any kind of respect for their parents as authority figures, and the kids watching these movies are going to think that that's okay for them to do with their parents. We're concerned with how much sex and violence we're exposing our children to, but no one thinks that it might be a bad idea to teach our kids to be snarky little rebels who can't even fathom the possibility of listening to their parents. And because Kate and Humphrey have no idea how to get the pups to listen to them, they have Patty and Marcel following them around.
Uncle Marcel, stop following us.
Oh, I was, trying to catch a field mouse.
Yeah, right. Did our parents put you up to this?
My beak is sealed.
No. The correct answer to that question is yes, your parents put me up to this because you failed to prove yourselves worthy of their trust. Deal. And because the pups are such responsible young adults who are completely justified in their wandering off and ignoring their parents, they immediately get separated and Runt goes back to Sawtooth Cave completely alone. Oh look, it's the ghost of Christmas completely ineffectual again.
Not afraid. I am king of the forest. Wow, that sounded pretty good. Boring. Doesn't scare me. I once fought a bear cub at Rabbit Poo Mountain.
You've been to Rabbit Poo Mountain?
Yes. Who are you?
Come back tomorrow.
First of all, why does he need to come back tomorrow? Why can't you just talk to him now? Secondly, Rabbit Poo Mountain isn't a real place! Once again, we see this movie falling back on names that were established in previous installments and taking them completely out of context. Let's look back at this scene from the first movie.
So, why is this called Rabbit Poo Mountain?
Because this is where rabbits like to poo. I was just kidding.
We see Lily showing Garth around her territory, and she calls this one mountain Rabbit Poo Mountain as a joke. And this movie will go on to tell us that this blind wolf, named Daria, once came from another pack completely separate from every other pack we've seen so far, and that they all lived at Rabbit Poo Mountain. Why does this piss me off so much? Because I can't wrap my head around how these writers could possibly be paying such close attention to the first movie that a simple little joke like this would stick out in their minds like it did, and yet they still have no idea that a joke is all that it was supposed to be. How can they be so attentive to detail and somehow have no idea what they're talking about? Gah! We then see those two other wolves from Tony's flashback as they try to take the forest for themselves. And because these alphas are such fearless, accomplished hunters, they're easily scared off by the porcupines we saw earlier. Because it's not like the wolves can just eat these porcupines, which was the entire point of going into this forest, which was teeming with life! Code for food! Runt goes to see Daria later that night, because he can't even listen to her request and come back tomorrow like she asked, and he asks how she was able to help them find Stinky.
I heard a splash, and well, I have other talents.
How did you get up here?
The same way you got up here? We then see Daria have a flashback to her childhood at Rabbit Poo Mountain, where these other wolves try to eat her since a wolf who's blind can't make for a good hunter.
It is the way of the pack.
1. We've already established that not every wolf is going to grow up to be a hunter. Make her an Omega, and let her use her blindness as part of her comedic shtick. 2. If there's something wrong with her offspring, a mother wolf will eat her own cub herself without any hesitation. Just food for thought. Daria's mom hides her and runs off to be killed by the other wolves, because them killing off another of their hunters makes so much sense, and she's taken in by her porcupine friend. And of course it makes perfect sense that this porcupine would still be alive to watch over her years later, because it's not like porcupines have shorter lifespans than wolves or anything. Psh. Runt decides to help Daria get back to her pack, and Kate Hump start looking for him. Why aren't they gathering the other alphas for this like they did in the second movie? And of course they bump into the porcupines again, who for some reason know where Runt is going, and those sharp teeth and claws that the wolves have do nothing to get the porcupines to tell them what they want to know.
You two better pipe up, or you're gonna be our future appetizer.
Oh, now we see where the daughter got her obnoxious personality.
We need to find our pup.
Now!
Oh, girlfriend, we are close to seeing the two dogs beg. Let's see it. Come on now.
What? Beg? I will never.
I would just like to remind you all that we are here today thanks to a movie that showed two characters from different walks of life who society deemed simply shouldn't be together. An alpha and an omega? That's just wrong. But through many dangers and perils, these two characters fell in love and they wanted to be together. And they decided, you know what? Screw society. We love each other. We should be together. And they single-handedly changed their entire society. And now everyone, be they alpha or omega, are now free to be with whoever they choose. And now these pioneers and trailblazers are being humiliated and taken down a peg simply because it's funny, I guess. Go to hell, movie. We then see more incompetent animation on display as Runt leads Daria to Rabbit Poo Mountain, followed by Daria leading Runt to Rabbit Poo Mountain, and Kate Hump jumping over... what, the transition? There's nothing there! Why did they have to jump into this scene?
It's alright. I know a shortcut to Rabbit Poo Mountain. Follow me.
Oh my god! Why do you know a shortcut to Rabbit Poo Mountain? Your job is to stay home and entertain the wolves. If either of you should know a shortcut to Rabbit Poo Mountain, it should be Kate! Runt and his friends continue into the night, because of course he knows how to get to a place that's several days' journey away. Ugh. And then this happens.
Hey, you are okay, right?
Yeah, I can feel it on my back.
Feel what?
Yes, she could apparently hear a splash from far away and deduce that someone is in danger of falling into the river, but she can't feel the earth rumbling that anyone else could feel, nor can she hear an approaching truck until it's 5 feet away from her. Is she supposed to be Matt Murdock or Mr. Magoo? Make up your mind, movie! Runt is somehow heavy enough to push her completely out of the way and not just fly headfirst into the railing, because that's how physics work. And they keep on journeying into the next day, where Kate Humph catch up with them. And how do they react to their son running away from home, skipping out on Omega School, and worrying them to death?
Yeah, son, we're here to help you.
I hate you. They finally make it to Daria's pack, but when one of the alphas approaches her to see what's going on, Runt, for some reason, thinks he needs to do something about it.
Hi there. Hey, Runt, come on now. Let's not bother Mr. King.
What?
Let's not bother Mr. King.
What? Why did Humphrey call this guy Mr. King? Is he supposed to be King, the villain from the second movie? Because he looks nothing like him. Did he call him King just because that's his title? Why would he if we've never heard any other alpha call themselves King before now? Why did he call him Mr. King? Anyway, Daria's sister recognizes her, and she tells her that their mother never came back. Funny that she needed to be told this. I would have thought that she could hear her mother getting torn to shreds from 20 feet away. And one sloppy dissolve later, we're immediately back in Shadow Forest, where Daria hears 3 wolves from her pack coming up behind them. Why would she only now hear them instead of yesterday when they started on their journey back? And why didn't anyone else hear them coming? And why are these wolves so adamant about killing Daria anyway? If she's deemed unfit for survival when she's a puppy and they need to kill her for the good of the pack and herself, that makes sense. But why go after her now that she's proven that she knows how to survive without being a burden on anyone? So they have a little fight scene. They chase Daria to Rabbit Poo Mountain and then back to Shadow Forest through another crappy dissolve. And that ghost wolf makes its final appearance as this wolf is closing in on Daria. Why did it never do that before now? I mean, what? This ghost has the power to zap threats into the other side? Why did it never do that before? Why didn't it take Runt or Tony or anyone else that it perceived to be a threat? Wouldn't that solve more problems than just leering at them? Oh, and because this movie takes delight in pissing me off, we have one more final scene with those damn porcupines again. Oh boy!
This is our favorite part, the Valley of the Forest.
This is where we are from.
So, you're Valley Girls.
Yeah, totally.
Let's just for the minute ignore that these are wild Canadian wolves and they should have no idea what Valley Girls are. Ignoring that, why would she make that distinction when her entire pack comes from the valley? So they invite Daria into their pack, and that makes the ghost disappear forever and it takes the bad weather away with it. And the movie ends with the sunlight piercing through the trees, and we're left on a beautiful final image that might actually mean something if the blind character could actually acknowledge it! So that was Alpha and Omega, the legend of Oh my god, why?! The animation in this movie isn't as offensive as it was in the last movie, but aside from that, it's easily the worst one to date. It's not funny, it's not scary, it craps all over these characters in whom we're supposed to have some kind of emotional investment, it has absolutely no interest in continuing the story, it's full of plot holes, and the writing is absolutely atrocious. This movie is definitely one for the box, but unlike every other bad movie or comic I've condemned to the box, I need to feel this one actually slip through my fingers as it dissolves into nothing. Ah, yes. I can feel it fading. Yes. Yes. And it's gone. Happy Halloween, everyone.
They're growing up so fast.
No, they aren't!
Subscribe.